Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word Live and to some race reaction to the Singapore Grand Prix. I'm not going to sit here and lie. That wasn't the best race we've seen this season by a long way, rather. But it wasn't all bad. We got some interesting stuff early on, some good strategy, kind of mixed things up a little bit, got us a little bit of drama. And, of course, Sergio Perez gave us plenty to talk about as well. If you didn't catch me in the race Watchalong, which I really enjoyed, by the way, it wasn't a great race, but it was great to be interacting with all of you guys. But if you didn't catch me in that one, just a heads up, this one's going to be a little bit like Friday's stream, just me flying solo. Unfortunately, nobody else is available to help me out today, and John T is not very well, so I will say right at the start of this stream, get well soon, mate. Hope you are feeling better very, very soon. So, not going to lie, Formula Madic's already on me. Not going to lie, I'll be honest, and that's all you're going to hear in this stream throughout. But we're going to start by going over the race result in just a second. Then I'm going to talk about the strategy, obviously, which proved pivotal. Ferrari got it wrong, didn't they, if we're being completely honest? There you go. We're also going to be talking about the championship and what this all means. I'm sure you've all got your own opinions on that one. Lots of talk about Perez, also driver of the day as well, your three-word race reports, and a little bit of a small debate, if we can, very quickly, if we've got time, on blue flags. But let's start by having a look at that race result. And as you can see, if you didn't see the Grand Prix, that was a top six on the grid. But, we got a little bit of a mix-up early on, but it was Lewis Hamilton who took the victory for Mercedes, 8.9 seconds clear of Max Verstappen, who very nearly, thanks to certain drivers ignoring blue flags, very nearly nicked it. He had a chance, but he didn't quite get it done. Sebastian Vettel in third place, a long way behind in the end. Ferrari just did not have the pace this weekend that we all, if we're being honest, there it is again, expected them to have. Valtteri Bottas was in fourth place for Mercedes again, well off Sebastian Vettel. Kimi Räikkönen had a go at Valtteri towards the end of the Grand Prix, but couldn't get it done. He is in fifth position. Ricciardo, 9/10 behind Raikkonen, did go nice and racy, set some pretty blistering laps, did really well in terms of strategy on those hypersoft tyres early on. He pitted later than anybody else, I think, who started on those tyres, so really decent drive. Red Bull looked all right today for pace. Not, again, a little bit like Ferrari, not the pace I expected them to have, but still pretty solid. Fernando Alonso, absolutely brilliant. My one to watch, which means I got something right. Eventually, it happened. He went from, 11th to 7th. Really good strategy again. Ran nice and long on those ultra soft, switching to the soft tyres, and managed to finish best of the rest and on the lead lap as well. Doesn't sound like a big thing, but for McLaren, who have really struggled in recent races, that's quite a big step forward for them. Some good pace all weekend from the team from Woking. Carlos Sainz managed to recover from 13th, I think it was on the grid, or 12th on the grid, to 8th place for Renault. Charles Leclerc, really good drive as well, joining those two ahead of him, making their way through the field to finish in 9th. Nico Hülkenberg picked up that final point for Renault. Again, good drive from him. Nothing special, but I think, double points for Renault is quite important. Like I was saying with McLaren in the watch-along, with the way Force India are coming at the moment with pace, when they're not imploding, as they did today thanks to Sergio Perez, you'd probably argue that Force India are right in that mix and taking points away. So big points for McLaren this weekend and big points for Renault as well. Marcus Ericsson just missing out in 11th place. A much better race than the qualifying session he had on Saturday for Stoffel Van Dorn in 12th place. Really racy with Ericsson towards the end. Didn't see an awful lot on TV, but he very nearly got him, but didn't quite work out. Pierre Gasly, great scrapping, I have to say, between him and Charles Leclerc earlier in the Grand Prix. That was good to see, but Gasly's tyres were just absolutely gone at that point, and Leclerc got it done. Lance Stroll finished in 14th place for Williams. It doesn't look great, does it, 14th? But for Williams, that's not a bad result at all, to be honest. Romain Grosjean, I don't know where Haas's pace went. I really don't. They looked pretty solid in practice. Good qualifying as well. P8, I think it was, for Grosjean. So to end up 15th, very disappointing. Obviously, a 5-second time penalty as well, which we'll go over a little bit later on. Sergio Perez, a joke of a day from the Mexican, quite frankly. I'm not going to hold back on him a little bit later. Absolutely disgusting, some of his driving and conduct today. Brendan Hartley in P17. Kevin Magnussen in 18th. Again, no pace. Really thought K-Mag was going to be racy through the field, but it just didn't happen. However, he did set the DHL, as they like to say, fastest lap of the race with a 1:41.905 and was considerably quicker than those ahead of him. In fact, he was considerably quicker than those ahead of him, 41.905. So a little bit of a tiny victory there for Sergei. And Esteban Ocon was Sergei Sorokin in 19th, and Esteban Ocon was the only driver to retire, which was a bit of a surprise. I thought we'd get a bit more chaos than that, but it didn't happen. Esteban Ocon retiring after contact on the first lap with his teammate. Seen an onboard, which has completely changed my opinion on that one. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later in this one. But we're going to have to start off, only place really, is with the race winner, which was Lewis Hamilton. A solid drive and a surprising... Again, as I said, kind of after qualifying, and as I said in the watch-along about it, not surprising that he's done it, because we all know what Lewis Hamilton can do, but surprising because I was not expecting Mercedes to have that pace this weekend. I don't even think Mercedes were expecting them to, but they've come in, they've absolutely delivered this weekend, and that drive, if you're a Ferrari fan, I'm afraid to say, could well have been championship deciding, because now Sebastian Vettel has to win every race between now and the end of the season, assuming Lewis Hamilton finishes second, and even then he would only win the title by 2 points. Vettel has got to start winning. We will talk about the championship in a minute, but his drive was pretty much perfect, really. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and start dressing it up as anything phenomenal, because the top 6 at least were pretty much driving around looking after everything. And that's kind of how it felt. A little bit like Monaco, which was my fear after qualifying, was that we're just going to nurse everything, manage the pace. He said it in the press conference as well, which, we're here for racing. We want to watch racing, and we're not getting that. But from a driver's perspective, from a team perspective, you have to understand that they want maximum points from a weekend. That's what they're going to do at the end of the day. So if they've got to do that to get to the end of the race or to get the best result, that's what they're going to do. The problem lies with the FIA, with those making the rules at the end of the day. They've got to sort it, and that's kind of that, if we're being honest. But really, really solid drive. Did what he needed to do, managed his race, and it all got pretty much spot on from the start. He got a decent start. Verstappen, not the best. That allowed Sebastian Vettel to have a go down the outside into turn 1, but Verstappen defended very well. Little lock-up from Seb, which obviously left him a little bit wider than he needed to be, but he did get the run down Raffles Boulevard to get past of him into turn 7. So, really the start was key today. Pole position, as they said yesterday, was always going to be key, because just as Hamilton said, and as I said just a second ago in the press conference, he was able to get out there, control the field, manage his car, and then he's got control of the pace, and that just worked today, and he's got the win. 40-point championship lead. That is, again, I said it in the watch-along, 30 points seemed big, 40 seems massive, even though it's only 10 points more, and I think it is that stat that, let's say Hamilton finishes second in every Grand Prix between now and the end of the season, Vettel's got to win them all, because he would still only win the title by 2 points. And yes, there's 150 points available. All it takes is a shaky weekend or a DNF from Mercedes, and all of a sudden things start to turn. But at the moment, it looks very, very bleak for Ferrari. And I have to say, they really only have themselves to blame this weekend. They came into the Grand Prix, into the whole weekend with the fastest car. That looked the way before we got there. We all expected that. It looked the way after practice. It didn't happen. They really messed up. They really, really messed up with their strategy. They left it, Vettel said it on team radio, they left it too long. They waited at least a lap too long to get the switch onto the other tyres, and that completely threw them today, and that threw their strategy. And obviously, that brought him out behind Sergio Perez, which then costs even more time and obviously takes life out of the tyres. That enabled Verstappen, who wasn't particularly quick. He was fairly pacey at that point, but wasn't flying. That enabled him to get his pit stop done, and despite what was issues with his getaway, with his gearbox and his engine, whatever issues he's had this weekend, that enabled him to jump, if you like, absolutely jump Sebastian Vettel in the pit stops, despite the fact the German came in earlier for the undercut, and it just didn't work. And Heidi over on Discord is somebody I chat to quite a lot, so I don't know I'm name dropping her, but somebody over on Discord I was chatting to, or she sent me a message to say that, are we wrong to be saying, let's look at Vettel versus Hamilton? Is this Ferrari versus Mercedes? Because, yes, Hamilton is delivering. Yes, Vettel is making mistakes. He's feeling the pressure. But when it comes to strategy, those calls come from the team. And Mercedes are getting it right, and Ferrari are getting it wrong. And that's where this is, for me, all boiling down to now. That's a great point from Heidi. There's... as I said, Vettel is feeling the pressure, the mistakes are coming. Hamilton isn't making those errors, so of course, that is where the rivalry is. That is where we need to look. But the team are making too many mistakes, Ferrari, as well. And I understand that they've had a rough time of it, and I get that, but, they're going for the championship. If they want to do this, then they really need to win this weekend. And I've been saying all season that I felt like it was going down to the wire. I'm not going to sit here and say it's over because there's too many points available for it to be over. But the way it was ebbing and flowing earlier in the season, it was never wrong to say this is going down to the wire, because at the time, it completely felt that way because of the way, as I say, it was changing every weekend. One driver was the quickest, the next weekend it was somebody else, and that's the way the points were all going. But, it's just disappointing if it doesn't go down to the wire, but at the same time, I'm going to be completely honest, I will never take anything away from Lewis Hamilton for this championship if he does it. Yes, we can say Ferrari made mistakes. Yes, we can say Vettel made mistakes. But he's getting the job done where Ferrari and Vettel aren't. So that's the only way to put it, really. But the championship, I'm going to come to you for some reaction in just a moment on it and let me know what you think. But there are still 150 points available. I'm not the best at maths, but I'm pretty sure that means there's 110 points there to swing that. So plenty, absolutely plenty up for grabs, and there's opportunities. We've got races, as I said, in the watch-along. Like, you've got Brazil, which is a bit of a lottery when they get there. You've got Japan as well, which can be chaotic. So things can swing very quickly in Formula One. And I can't remember the quote. I'm going to try and quote it the best I can from what Toto Wolff said after the session when that was put to him about the points gap. He said, the great thing is, this isn't maths, this is racing. Anything can happen. We have to remember that. You can be the biggest Lewis Hamilton fan in the world, but 40 points is nowhere near 150 and things can turn. But we'll see how it goes. I'm still confident we're going to have an exciting end to the season. Whether it results in a championship fight, I don't know. I think if Ferrari want to win a title this year, if they're looking at drivers and constructors is probably their best bet as of now. But as I say, anything can swing very, very quickly. But I'll get a couple of your comments then on this one and the championship fight and what you think about the race win. Then I'm going to go on probably a bit of a moan about Sergio Perez, which, to be honest, I think is completely justified given his driving today. And probably go on to some blue flags as well. But your reaction, I'll try and see what we're doing. I'm late, my bad. No worries, British. Don't worry. I was a bit later starting today. The neighbours were doing some busy putting some shelves up or something, making loads of noise. But Nikhil says, Sean, you jinxed the race again. Yeah, I keep doing it. I'm going to stop doing predictions. I'm going to stop saying it's going to be a great race because I keep messing it all up. So we'll not do that. Mercedes keep impressing you. They do. I mean, as I keep saying, I said it yesterday, there's no denying Lewis Hamilton's talent, and you know that on any given day he can deliver. But when Mercedes are so negative about a weekend and come in and from qualifying onwards pretty much dominate, it's a surprise for me. So I'm pleased that it's unpredictable like that, if that makes sense. If a team says we're going to be poor this weekend and everything says they're going to be poor, but then they turn up and do a really good job, it's great that we've got that unpredictability. So you look at Russia, Bottas should go well there. Mercedes should be a lot stronger there than they were in Singapore. What if Ferrari turn up under the dominant force? Do you know what I mean? It's nice to have that unpredictability. So it's awesome. Mind Games Bro says, Oz, absolutely agree. It's part of that. That's part of F1. And I love it. Let's try and be nice to each other in chat. I'm sure we can try, but I doubt some will. Canada usually is a great race, but this year it was says Astro. Absolutely, it was terrible, and this was better than Canada. There was some interesting stuff in terms of strategy and whatnot. It was crucial, wasn't it? It was absolutely crucial for Sebastian Vettel, as I said just a moment ago. Coming out behind Perez cost him. Leaving it that extra lap cost him, and should he have stayed out? I mean, you look at the pace that Ricciardo had on those hypers. They weren't bad on the used ones, but it's Ferrari strategies. We've seen it so many times. It just doesn't always work for them. I've seen a few people saying that Ferrari are too cocky or too confident when they're coming into weekends. Maybe they need to just take a step back in that respect. But yeah, I think you have to feel a little bit for Vettel in the sense that, this is a strategy error in the race. But at the same time, he didn't deliver yesterday in qualifying and accepted it by his own admission that it was messy and the lap wasn't complete. And it was the same in Monza. He wasn't able to deliver that perfect lap. And ultimately on a street circuit like Singapore, track position is king. And Hamilton was out front, got the start, controlled the race, had the boot been on the other foot. Had Vettel delivered in qualifying, he would have been on pole. He could have controlled the race. So it's fine margins, it really is. But I think, without saying too much more on Hamilton and Vettel in the championship fight, Saturday was huge, and that lap from Lewis Hamilton and that lap from Max Verstappen were both incredible. Two of the best laps we've seen this season, absolutely, 100% for me. Keep up the good work, says Matthew. Thank you very much, mate, for your contribution. I really do appreciate that one. Awesome. I will try my best. Their tyre strategy shows Ferrari were cocky. I was surprised to see the Ultrasofts go on. I'm going to be honest, I was really surprised. I thought they would go soft. I thought that made the sense if they were going to try the one-stopper. But, you know, for Vettel 5, 6, 7 laps into that stint to say these tyres aren't going to last to the end, you already know at that point he's going to nurse them to the end because he has to go for damage limitation, doesn't he? Great to see John T in chat, mate. Get well soon. Hope you're feeling better soon. Sorry you missed out on Alton Towers, but at least you had the Grand Prix to make up for it. So Ferrari had no data on the softs. That's very true. Gordon Ramsay, the Gordon Ramsay. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the softs are the tyre they've tried to avoid this season because they've struggled on. So I think that's why they didn't go there. But, you know, I don't know. It just felt like a series of mistakes today, but we'll move on from the title fight because I don't want to ramble on too much about it because I just end up repeating myself constantly. But I do need to talk about Sergio Perez. Yeah, his driving today was wholly unacceptable. Now, when he had his incident on the first lap with Esteban Ocon, I felt that was a racing incident. Having just seen odd replays and watching it live, obviously I thought, yeah, it looked like a racing incident. Maybe a bit of oversteer, no space on the inside. Perhaps it's just a little bit of an unlucky situation. Wheel-to-wheel contact in the wall. There was a replay shown afterwards in the Sky coverage. It was probably shown on many other channels as well, of the onboard of Sergio Perez in turn 1. He quite clearly turns that wheel to straighten and go to the right and makes contact with his teammate Esteban Ocon. That's a deliberate move. I'm not going to change my view on that one because I already have. It looked like a racing incident live, and as soon as you see that on board, it's quite clear that that's a deliberate move to go to, let's be nice, defend against Esteban Ocon, but it's contact. It is contact. It wipes his teammate out. Otmar Safnauer was livid after the Grand Prix and has said that they will bring back team orders like they had last year when they were connecting to try and protect the best interests of the team. And I completely agree with that. And it's sad because Ocon is there racing, he's there minding his own business, and his teammate who, you know, shouldn't be making contact. His teammates shouldn't be colliding. It's as simple as that. That is like rule number 1 in Formula One, and most motor racing series do not take out your teammate. And he goes and makes a stupid move like that, and it makes you question Perez's integrity, especially when you go to what happened a little bit later in the Grand Prix. But for Esteban Ocon, he's racing for his Formula One future. It doesn't look like he's going to be on the grid next year, but he's got to at least still try and deliver in his Grand Prix to at least be able to turn around at the end of the season and say, do you know what? I didn't get a seat, but I did my best. Perez wipes out his teammate. Force India are, you know, for all intents and purposes, a brand spanking new team now. You know, this Racing Point Force India, every single point they can pick up in the championship is crucial. They had a great opportunity this weekend to really take some points out of McLaren, possibly even go for 7th in the championship. It's looking genuinely possible. And he's costing the team points with his stupid driving today. I don't know what it is with Perez. I am a big fan of Sergio Perez. I think he's a very underrated driver and does a great job in that midfield. The problem is, every now and again, he does stuff like this where you sort of go, almost showing what he was like at McLaren, if that makes sense. When he was younger, you know, sides of that where you look at him and you go, that's not good enough. You shouldn't be driving like that. And it was a shocking move on board because it's a blatant move of the steering wheel to straighten that car up and cause that block on his teammate. Then you look at the live again and the other angles of it, and there's plenty of space on the left for him to avoid that contact. So he didn't get a penalty for that. But looking back, he absolutely should have done. Absolutely should have done. But one of the most slam dunk penalties I think I've seen for a long time in Formula One in terms of a racing incident was that between between Sergio Perez and Sergei Sirotkin. What on earth was Sergio Perez doing? That scrap, by the way, was brilliant to watch. It was absolutely brilliant. Somebody in chat there saying, Sean, why don't you give Hamilton the credit he deserves? You're obviously just new to the stream because I did say that for the last 15 minutes, but have been giving him more than enough credit. But anyway, that scrap was fantastic to watch. Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic scrapping. They're side by side. It's wheel to wheel and you're going, oh, this is great. People in chat during the watch along were giving it this will end in a crash. And I'm sort of sat there going, yeah, I can see this ending in a crash, but I did not expect that. Perez, side by side, and he turns left. It's as simple as that. He turns left into Sirotkin and hits him. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that's also why that calls into question the incident with Ocon. You could maybe say, maybe he's just straightening his wheel, didn't realise Ocon was there, that led to the collision. But then you see that move on Sirotkin and you go, actually, yeah, I can see that being deliberate. And I'm frustrated for it. I'm so angry that a driver of Perez's, for want of a better word, calibre, I suppose, someone who is a solid midfield driver and massively experienced in the sport, would do something stupid like that for no reason. The move was done. Sirotkin's not going to come up the inside in the next corner because that's both of them out. He's not going to make that move in the next corner. Perez has got it done. Why does he feel the need to make that move? It's stupid. There's no need to do it. You're side by side. You want to put a squeeze on. I can kind of understand it, want to maybe just, go away, mate, this is mine. But the move's done. He doesn't need to do that. And there'll be some that'll say, well, maybe he was just coming across racing line. He was on the racing line when he made that move. There's no reason for him to do that. And he got a drive-through penalty for that incident. Correct decision. But when you take into account what happened with Ocon, I feel like he should be getting more. And I really hope, I don't know, maybe it's worth me doing a bit of a Google job later on and having a look. But for me, it might be worth Ocon and Force India saying something to the FIA and Perez getting some kind. I mean, Force India won't. Maybe Ocon will try and Force India will put him off it. But I'd be surprised if anything comes of it. But it might be worth an appeal because I don't know. I just. This is a problem with Race Reaction Stream. It's all a bit reaction. Well, it's reaction. That's exactly what it is. But it's all speculation and thinking off the top of my head a little bit. But I suppose teammates, there's no way there's any point appealing when I say that. But it could be worth it. It's just absolutely ridiculous and dangerous. Ultimately, dangerous. It's not at massively high speed at that point, but it doesn't matter. It's contact. It's a stupid move. I will say justice done in the sense that he was the one that came off worse, if that makes sense. He got the damage to his car. He had to pit. He then got the penalty as well. So Sirotkin kind of got away with that in a way. But I just do not for a second believe that was acceptable from Sergio Perez. And I think the FIA need to at least, pull him into the steward's room and just sit down and say, at least have a word with him, if you know what I mean. But it would be nice if they sat down and said, gave him a bit more of a penalty, particularly the Ocon one. But I don't see anything happening because, like I say, Perez and Ocon are teammates. There's no way the team are going to appeal because then Perez could get a ban for the next race. Not a ban, but a penalty for the next race, and that's going to cost some points. And there's no way the team are going to let Ocon appeal. So it's a difficult one. But I think, yeah, let's get some reaction before I just go and repeat what I just said. Does Perez deserve a one race ban, says Domino Effect? No, it's bad, but it's not Grosjean bad, if that makes sense, from 2012, whenever it was in Spa. So it's bad, but it's not that bad. He already have one penalty. They won't give him two. I'm talking about, I was talking to Tony the guitarist, but I was referring to the incident with Ocon. He should be getting a penalty for that rather than just the one with Sirotkin. Deep Dark Fantasy says he does deserve a race ban. Sirotkin was doing an awesome job until that contact. He really was, because he pitted on lap 3, I believe, or lap 4, and had to have some debris removed from his front wing and some repairs and whatnot. And he did a really good job on those tyres and was racing well. I was quite impressed with Williams, particularly Sirotkin today. The chassis is quite important around Singapore. Obviously, power helps because it's got your long straights and whatnot. But I was quite impressed with Williams today, and I think they deserve a fair bit of credit for it. And I said when I went through the result in the watch-along, 14th for Stroll looks bad. It doesn't sound great, but for Williams, that's not a bad result at all. Patrick says, no Jonty today. No, mate, he's not very well. So hopefully he'll be better for Wednesday, and we'll get a good old debate with him and Dan going again like we did the other week. Neither the team or Ocon have the right to appeal. The FIA have made their decision matter over. They do have a right to appeal, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Nothing will come of it anyway. Even if they appealed, I don't think anything would happen. And I don't think they'll appeal anyway, because why would they? Why put a risk of Perez getting a 5-place grid drop at the next race and costing them even more points? Black flag for Perez, says Justin. No, I think the drive-through for the incident with Sirotkin was right, but there should have been a penalty for the incident with Ocon, but I don't think a black flag, maybe a 5-second time penalty or another drive-through, but like I say, nothing's going to come of it. We'll come to blue flags in a moment for a few people that are asking there. Nando was on fire. We're going to talk about Fernando Alonso in a moment because he was clearly my driver of the day. 14 for Williams is a victory nowadays, says Tony the guitarist. It'll feel like it to them. There was a point in the race where I thought they might get a point. I thought they were on for a point, but things didn't quite go. I think I said at the time that they needed a little bit of luck, but they could if they can get the pace up. Nab 10th, but it never came, and no more retirements or anything like that. So, a shame, but still a solid weekend for Williams, I think, in the end. Do you think this will affect Perez's seat next season? No, in all honesty, Mashiro. Mainly because I think it's already done. I think that contract's signed, same with Stroll, so I don't think that's going to affect too much. If it's not signed, they might look at it and go, well, actually, yeah, why do we want this? Why do we really want him running into his teammate every weekend, or not every weekend, but you know what I mean? Do we really want him running into his teammate next season? So, I doubt it, but I wouldn't be surprised if the speculation starts, which I think it will over the next few days anyway. But Perez brings more money, so it doesn't matter, says Hamilton fan 89. He does bring a lot of money, doesn't he? A few now coming up with the money as well there. So one bad race for Perez and people want to ban him. He's a solid driver and it was a bad move from him, but still a race ban. Seriously, says Jerry Davis. I don't agree with the race ban at all. It's nowhere near hard enough. But he was stupid today, and you've alluded to that in your comment anyway. So Sean, I'm new to the live stream. You mind repeating your thoughts on the championship? I'll do that towards the end, summarise a little bit, but thank you for coming along. Great to have you with us for the first time. Imagine if Perez crashed into Stroll. I knew that was coming. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one next year if that happens. But let's talk about... I think we'll go for blue flags. I am going to talk about blue flags, but I haven't put a picture in for it because I'm stupid. But basically, let's go blue flags because that very nearly decided the Grand Prix. There was an incident, or not an incident actually, that's really harsh. They were fighting. Grosjean and Sirotkin were fighting very hard, very, very hard. Really great scrap for those lower positions, and they were going for it. There was at one point a four-way scrap there. But as Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen approached them, they didn't move out of the way. They didn't even try a move out of the way. They were locking up, they were running off the track, they were fighting hard, and it cost Hamilton a hell of a lot of time, and it allowed Verstappen a bit of a run. Had Hamilton not been alert, Verstappen would have been up his inside, but he did come across to defend in the end. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is, after the race, Hamilton was fuming. Fuming's a bit harsh, but he was angry over team radio. Verstappen was angry as well, and I can completely understand that. But is it really right that we're talking about two guys fighting really hard on track, having to jump out of the way for the race leaders? Now, blue flags for me are something that I don't ever see leaving the sport, and I kind of think they need to be there for certain instances. But when you're looking today, you've got two drivers really fighting hard, giving us some great entertainment. Do we really want them pulling off to the side of the road, dropping right off and letting everybody else through, and that's their race compromised? It's not nice, and it's a 20-car grid. Whether they're quick or not, they should be allowed to race. The only thing I would say about today is it wasn't like it was for points. Does that make sense? If they're up there fighting for 8th and 9th place and they're getting lapped, which I think says a lot about Formula One. But anyway, if they're up there in 8th and 9th place fighting for points, then let them race. But if they're out of position like that, what were they? Something like 14th, 15th place or something along those lines. I think they should be getting out of the way at that point. But at the end of the day, a few saying it in chat already, let them race. This is racing, and once upon a time, here he goes, the good old days. Once upon a time, we didn't have blue flags, and leaders had to overtake those ahead of them. And I think back to one of the famous ones, Eddie Irvine and Ayrton Senna. Senna lapping Irvine, getting caught up, and then getting unlapped by the Irishman. That's racing. That's what we want to see. But It has opened the debate up. A lot of people are talking about, I know Charlie Whiting went down to the stewards room after the Grand Prix to apologise directly to Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, which was a bit odd to see. Very surprised to see that. Not necessarily that he apologised, but to do it so publicly on camera was a little bit of a surprise. Maybe would have expected that in a race debrief or sat down in the stewards room or something like that. But, he apologised for that one. But he is one that said in the past that removing blue flags from the sport is on the table. But the problem you're going to get with that is not so much for, say, what race we've got coming next, Russia, where you've got plenty of space, plenty of overtaking opportunities. Somewhere like Monaco, if you've not got blue flags, chaos. Absolute chaos. And I know that we want racing and we want these guys at the front scrapping, so in a way you're kind of like, actually, yeah, that'd be really cool. But at the same time, it's going to start deciding races. Do we really want, I don't know, Lance Stroll deciding a race or a world championship because he didn't get out of the way? Do we want that? I don't. I want them racing, but blue flags have got to stay to a point. They could be implemented better. Loved the fact that Charlie Whiting said to Bottas today, basically, you need to be closer to the car ahead. 1.2 seconds, I think, before he gets blue flags. That's better. The problem is around Singapore. I think if you're within 2 seconds of the car ahead, the dirty air disrupts your car. So, it's all open to opinion. I don't ever see them going. I do believe the conversation will be had. I think they need to be less carefree with them, if that makes... That's probably the wrong wording, but it sometimes feel like they get the blue flags out too quickly, if that makes sense. I saw Hulkenberg get a couple of blue flags and I thought, well, Bottas is nowhere near him, so I think they get them out too early sometimes, but yeah, they've got to kind of... It's difficult to find a middle ground with them. Either they need to be in the sport and they need to be strict with them and they need to be consistent with them, or they get rid of them altogether. But obviously this is Formula One, and consistency, as a few people are pointing out with the penalty decision today, is not one of the FIA's, should we say, strong points, if we're feeling generous. Not one of the FIA's strong points. But yes, let's move on from blue flags, because it's not really one to talk about too much. Definitely one I need a second person or a couple of people's to kind of get their views on. Maybe discuss it on Wednesday. We'll get a couple of your comments though. In fact, there is one of my second people, Mr. Jonty there. Says DRS within 2 seconds of back markers, 1 second for position. Yeah, good point. I've never even thought about that, mate. That's a very good point. Get a better chance of the overtake rather than the blue flags. He didn't get blue flags, said Felix. There were a couple of times he went round and I saw blue flags waved. Whether that was an official, you're getting blue flags, or whether that was a marshal thinking they were doing the right thing, I don't know. But he definitely... whether or not he officially got blue flags, I don't know, but flags were waved. I saw it a couple of times and was surprised, and I said it in the watch along, surprised he was getting those because Bottas was nowhere near him. Actually, I'd be down watching a Monaco Grand Prix without blue flags. At least the racing and strategy will be better to watch, says Jamie Jesse. I suppose that's another thing, strategy. If you've got to compensate for that, that the back markers aren't going to get out of the way. That could spice up strategy quite nicely. That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, I never thought about that. Sean, do you think that Stroll will be driving a Force India before the end of this year? I'll take some questions on that towards the end of the stream, mate. Just going to get these last few bits out of the way for the race. Not a huge amount to talk about, but a few little bits for me to rant on. Let's have a quick flick. If there are no blue flags, the Sauber would help Ferrari in the World Drivers' Championship, says Raul. I don't know that. I suppose you could argue that with Toro Rosso as well, with Red Bull. But I think my point is, ultimately, whether they are connected to that team or not, we don't want lapped cars deciding races and world championships, do we really? I mean, it's nice to see that that's part of the skill and drivers have got to then overtake, and we're going to get some overtaking then. That's pretty much guaranteed. But you also have to remember as well that our driver's going to fight. We saw him, was it Monaco this year? I think it was Monaco, where Esteban Ocon jumped out of the way of Lewis Hamilton after the pit stops. If they're doing that for position, the back markers, more often than not, are probably going to do the same anyway. So maybe just blue flags for when back markers are clearly refusing to move rather than anything else. But I suppose that's what blue flags are for. So that was the most stupid point you've ever made, Sean. One of them. But anyway, take a couple more from you on the blue flags thing. People not fans of DRS, I understand that. I'm not a big fan. I kind of like what the way Ross Brawn described it, as a necessary evil. Something we need until Formula One is closer to... some decent racing, some cars getting closer, as we saw with the new concepts, of course, which was pretty awesome. K-Med got fastest lap. Yeah, I said that earlier. Oscar, fantastic for him. A little bit of a little victory for him there with the fastest lap. A shame they don't give points out for that. Maybe 1 point or something would be nice, but not many saying too much on blue flag. So we'll move on from that one. We are going to go to driver of the day. Officially, it was Mr. Max Verstappen, I believe. Yes, it was. Max Verstappen got driver of the day today, voted for by the fans. But who was yours? Mods will hate me now, but let me know in chat who your driver of the day was. I'm going to go with Fernando Alonso, as I was pretty confident of that. As soon as he ended up 7th after those pit stops, he was just spot on today in everything he did driving-wise. So really, for me, deserves that. Metal Gear Solid says the same. Alonso. Oscar says Sirotkin. MJ Shadow says Sirotkin. You know, he gave us some great racing. It was a good drive as well, so I can understand that. Hamilton says thoughts on film. Really solid drive from him today. Did everything he needed to do. Alonso, Sirotkin. Max says Lewis. Ericsson says Niles, or Niels. I probably said that wrong. But yeah, I always get your name wrong, mate, don't I? One way or the other. Hartley, Vettel. Vettel Verstappen duel at the end of the pit box. That was great. So that was close, wasn't it? Very close. Astro says Hamilton driver of the day. Alonso from Mortlock Legeddon. I get your names wrong. I'm so sorry. Mario Master 02 also said the same. British PKMN 1991. You get your full name every time. That was Alonso. A lot of you saying Alonso. Quite a few saying Max as well. Lewis getting some shout outs as well. I think it's difficult to look past the race winner sometimes because he did everything right today, managed it all perfectly. So he deserves a big shout there. But I can't look beyond Alonso. I can't do it. His drive today was spot on. In a car which, let's face it, is pretty poor. And that's been nice. And even the team, Zach Brown is coming out and saying, we've got a rubbish car. And I think he did all right today. Really good job from Alonso. There's been a few today. Leclerc says Joshua. He's another one that deserves a shout out. Niels has said the same for Charles. Sergey was great. He gave us so much action to Sirotkin, didn't he? Hulkenberg was solid. I kind of agree with that in a way, but P10 start, P10 finish. I think he could have done more, but I think he got traffic as well, didn't he? Which wasn't great. Sainz says a couple there. Leclerc, Alonso, Perez. Yeah, he gave us plenty to talk about, that's for sure. But yeah, a few differing opinions in there. That doesn't necessarily mean we've had a great race. That just means that people are struggling to pick someone in some respects or settle on someone between us. But I think Alonso's got a shout there. Lewis Hamilton absolutely in there. So is Max Verstappen. And I'll give, why not? Let's put Sirotkin in there as well because he gave us plenty of action, didn't he? On the track, that was driver of the day then. So I'm just going to quickly go on to Twitter now. Mods can hate me a little bit longer because I'm about to do it again. So on Twitter earlier, just before the race end, about 5 laps from the end, if Twitter wants to load for me, which it clearly doesn't, I did put out a tweet asking for your 3-word race reports. If you've got any, start popping them in chat now, and I'll try and keep an eye on them. I'm going to read some of them from Twitter. I always say I'm going to do this, so... or I'm going to try, but Twitter doesn't want to load at the moment. Let's have a scroll down. There we go. So quite a few comments. It's going to take a while. I'm just going to pick a few. So IGP Manager says, why Perez? Why? Perez is clean, says Matt Beard. All right, mate. F1 new, Perez new Maldonado, question mark. ST, I'm not going to read the full comment. You can go over on Twitter and read it if you want, but it says, heard about Google? Question mark. Long story. Blue Flags ignores, says Furlong. I bet you were sweating, mate. He's a big Lewis Hamilton fan. I bet he was a bit nervous when that was all going on. Nando, fastest lap, says Pepe, and then that's followed up by somebody replying with not too long, but that was a shocker. That was a shock. When Alonso delivered that lap, I nearly fell off my chair just like I did on Saturday. Sergey Race Saver, says Kenzie. Let's have a scroll through some more towards the bottom, some of the earlier ones. Perez rips everyone, says Sasha. Josh, still not finished. 150 points available, like I keep saying, and a 40-point gap. It's not over, but it's not looking good for Ferrari. You jinxed it, says Nico and Laughter. Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Ban Blue Flag, says Andy F. Pretty to the point on that one. All About Strategy, says Andrew. Ferrari messed again, says... I can't read your name, so sorry. I'm scrolling too quickly. Hot and Spicy. I don't know about Spicy. It was hot looking at the drivers when they got out the cars. This isn't racing, says David Salter. That's pretty damning. Magnussen fastest lap. Going to take 3 more. Let's have a really quick scroll through and do 3 more. Not the greatest, says Ben Fisher. Hamilton manages tyres, says Reality TV hater. And 1 more totally at random as well. Scroll down. And Vettel, goodbye championship. Yeah, I think that seems to be what a lot of people are swinging towards on that one. So it's not over mathematically, but it's a big step towards a fifth, I think, for Lewis Hamilton, isn't it? I think it is a long way back, 40 points. Absolutely. And I'm going to come to yours in chat now as well, very, very quickly. Ferrari damage control, question mark. I think that's how it was at the end. I reckon he turned everything down, Vettel, at the end, and realised he wasn't going to get any higher than third, so just protect what he's got, get the tyres to the end and go again in Russia. But he's going to have to. I think he's going to have to win every race between now and the end of the season, to be honest. And I don't see him doing it. You never know, but it's not looking. It's looking bleak, I think, is what I said in the watch along. I think that's the best way to put it. Vlogging at Charlie says Perez is stupid. Ocon should stay. A couple of you have said that. 100% agree. If you didn't catch the rant on Friday, I've made my feelings pretty clear on Esteban Ocon and the situation in Formula 1 at the moment. Aaron says Perez, the new Maldonado. I think that was one as well over on Twitter, actually. Pirelli ruined race, says Tiddles the Cat. I expected 2 stops, but everyone seemed to manage 1 at the front, didn't they? So I miss racing, says Games Donovan. Perez slaps Ocon, says Aaron. Championship is over, says Surfing Addict. Tyre choice rules, says Luca. Let's take a couple more. I'm not going to read that one. Blue Flag Hulkenberg says Maverick. Perez Car Magnet says Justin. A lot of dislike here for Perez. And poor Danny Rick says Maria. A lot of you thought it was going to win it, didn't you? In the comments to the predictions that I did over on Twitter and in the watch along as well. I think there was that moment where he put the hypers on or the ultras on or whatever, and he just went so quick after his pit stop, and I just thought he put a lap in that made me go, hang on, I think I said he's coming, but it just never really worked out for him, and he's not had the look at the moment. Engine problems at multiple Grand Prix. It's not worked for him this weekend. Should have done. Definitely a track that Red Bull should go well at, but I do feel a bit for Danny Rick at the moment. It's really kind of working against him, but you know, his teammate is beating him at the moment. So Jonty just saying, update from stewards, Grosjean, Perez and Sirotkin have got points for clash, blue flags and pushing driver off respectively. Oh, of course, Sirotkin, didn't he? Pushed Brendan Hartley off the track in a really crazy moment. I think there's a bit of a lock-up in there as well, but that was very nearly Hartley in the wall there. So, yeah, definitely. Thank you for that, Jonty. Just having a look on Twitter there at the reaction. But, yeah, that's exactly it. Grosjean, Perez and Sirotkin all get points for their incidents, multiple incidents today. So, you know, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of about it for the race. Not a huge amount to really go over. If you've got anything in the chat that you want me to cover from the race very quickly, I will do, because I've got a few minutes yet before I need to be ending, so we're all right. But we'll take some of your questions as well. Morgan says Sirotkin got penalty points. Why? It was for the incident with Hartley, where he's kind of forced him off. So Grosjean is up to 9 points, says Jonty. Perez has 5 and Sirotkin has got 6. Grosjean's living a little bit dangerously there, isn't he? 9 points out of a possible, is it 12? So he needs to be very careful between now and the end of the season, or he will be getting a race ban. Really like the car podium. I like that. I thought it was quite cool. It's very different. So, not the best race as Astro. I tend to agree with that. Marcus says, if Vettel wins, he's greatest of all time. I'm going to let you take the comments on that one, mate, because I'm going to stay out of that debate. But it would be one of the great turnarounds if he did it. There's no doubt about that. But the truth is, Hamilton is not making the mistakes that he's making, and Mercedes are not making the mistakes that Ferrari are making. So, I don't see it swinging. I hope it does, so that we get an absolute belter in Abu Dhabi. I genuinely don't care who wins the World Championship. I really don't. But if we can get this down to the wire and have a great race in Abu Dhabi, or even Brazil will do, brilliant. That's fantastic. But I don't see it happening. Do away with blue flags. Traffic is part of racing. Absolutely. A few people saying he won't do it. Lewis Hamilton has won. So let's take a couple of your questions then. I think I've covered just about all the big talking points of Grand Prix. Like I say, not an absolute cracker in terms of action, if we're being completely and totally honest, but I will always say it was better than Canada, and I'd probably argue it was better than Belgium as well. I think it got enough intrigue in there and the incidents throughout the field to give us a bit of action. So Let's have a look. I'm going to scroll up and see, get a couple of questions. I did have one earlier, didn't I? From somebody. Do you think, there it is. Do you think that Stroll will be driving a Force India before the end of this year? Now, Claire Williams said that it's a, quote, moving target when it comes to Lance Stroll. So at the moment, it's believed it will be Ocon and Perez to the end of the season and Stroll will stay put. But Claire Williams kind of alluding to the fact that it could change any moment. So he could be in the car come Russia. He could be in the car in Japan. He might not be in the car till Australia. So I think moving target is a really great way to describe it. And at the end of the day, it's all up to Lawrence Stroll, isn't he, and what he wants to do. I would be surprised because I think the points to Force India to make up some ground in the championship will be huge. So I think they'll stick with what they've got for now and keep the points coming. So, yeah, who do you think will finish 7th in the championship and take the B championship? Says Milan. I think 4th is 7th the B. I'd have said 4th was a B championship, but yeah, I think 7th. I think Force India. Yeah, I think Force India. If they can get the points right and Perez doesn't do what he did this weekend again, then yeah, definitely. Would you wear Lewis's collection? I'm sat here in a plain black t-shirt and joggers, so probably not. Yeah, I'm not bothered by stuff like that, to be honest. But thank you anyway for asking. 7th in the drivers. I think Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg or Magnussen, but I think the way Magnussen's driving at the minute, he seems to have gone off the boil a little bit. Whether that will come back, whether it's just a few races he's not enjoyed, things have gone against him as well. The contact in Monza, for example, so maybe it'll come back. But I think Hulkenberg will get that, to be perfectly honest. But I think Alonso's up to 8th now. So he could do, but McLaren would have to put a lot of development on their car, which they're not going to do for two drivers that are not going to be in that car next year. So I'll go Hulkenberg, yeah, we'll stick with that one. Don't you think Leclerc will replace Vettel already 2019? Vettel be number 2 driver? I don't know about that, but I certainly... Leclerc's pretty confident he's not going to be a number 2 driver at Ferrari. Ferrari are fairly vocal that he won't be as well. So I think he's going there on not equal terms because Vettel's been there a while. Leclerc's the rookie, if you like, the youngster coming through. But I don't think he's going there to jump out of the way like your Barrichellos and your Massas did. Genuinely don't think that. Yeah. Toro Rosso drivers for 2019. Honestly, Astro, who knows? It depends which report you read. Every other week it's somebody different. But at the moment, it looks like Daniel Kvyat is going to be confirmed at the Russian Grand Prix for next season. Hartley's seat isn't as safe as maybe we thought about. Initially after Gasly was moved to Red Bull. There's talk about Wehrlein. Still rumours about Verne, although I don't see that happening. He's pretty much ruled that out himself. There's talk of Van Dorn. It could be anybody. It really could. They say their list is about 10. I'd argue it's probably about 310, the way the rumours are flying around at the moment. Some race stuff then. So Oz says Ferrari still have the best package question. I think they do. What they had hasn't gone away in one Grand Prix. The way it's been worded from Ferrari, particularly Sebastian Vettel, is we didn't get the best out of our package. So I think Ferrari still have the faster car, but it's whether they are able to extract that over the course of a weekend, whether Vettel, the team between them, can get everything right, everything in place to get the best from that car. And at the moment, as we saw this weekend, they haven't done that. So yes, they have the best car, but they really need to be trying to get the best from it, and they're not at the moment. 310 drivers on the Red Bull hit list. Who will it be? I will save that for a stream one day in the very distant future when I can think of 310 drivers. It was a massive exaggeration, obviously. Would love to see Ocon and Van Dorn at Toro Rosso next year, says Astro. Just Ocon somewhere will do me. I don't even care if it's Williams, just anywhere will do. Have we got any questions about the race today? If not, we will move along and probably end the stream there because we'll do a proper good debate and whatnot on Wednesday when I've got Dan and hopefully if he's feeling better as well, John T. On the stream. That's a good question. Umar on cars. I have a feeling this got set mods again. Says Singapore race rating out of 10. So I'm going to say, I think I voted on the lights out Twitter thing. I think I said it was an average race. So I think 5. is bang average. I think that's right where it needs to be. So I'd say 5 for that one. But it's a good question. It's a good question. A few will disagree, I'm sure. Kaylin saying 6.5, Nick 7, Lewis 6. Did anything happen with the blatant corner cutting? Says clever pig hiding. I don't know, mate. I just trying to think now. We talking about the Grosjean one where he went over the yellow line with Sirotkin. Because I've not seen anything on that one and nothing got said at the time. But I think it was 3 strikes, wasn't it, with that one? So I think he's okay. Yeah. Magnussen got a 5-second penalty, says Jonty. So that was obviously corner cutting you're on about there. So, yeah, thank you for that one, Jonty. And thanks to everyone just confirming that for me there. Will you collaborate with more F1 YouTubers, e.g. Oversteer Network, etc. in the future for the potential podcast? ? Hope so. I'm talking to people. We've obviously got Mr. Chamber, who's going to be joining us, hopefully. I think he said 23rd and 30th, but obviously that could change. Obviously, he has a life. He's entitled to that. But yeah, so he's hopefully going to be on again next week. So we've got Chamber with us. We've obviously got Dan as well from F1 Reviews. Ellie from Formula Incident. Just got some stuff to sort out with her. Do need to talk to her this week, actually, to try and get her on again. But I'm talking to others, so we're certainly trying. So yeah. Didn't Haas cut the first corner? Says, is that the one we're talking about with Magnussen? Because that could be that could be it. But I don't remember that, honestly. I'll go back and have a look, and then I'll maybe mention it in tomorrow's race review if I find anything, or whatever tomorrow's video is. It might not be a race review. I've not decided yet. It will either be a race review or a big talking point from the race. I will say, actually, very quickly. Right. Okay. Yeah. There it is. Yeah. It doesn't matter. So I've got like 2 conversations just sat there in the chat, and I'm trying to kind of pick through them both. But we'll just say very, very, very quickly, things are tweaking slightly on a race weekend. Now, from your guys' point of view, in terms of the amount of content you're getting, nothing's changing. The timing of the content, nothing is changing. But we are going to be, I'm renaming things to kind of give them a different feel and take things, as I keep saying, back to opinion. So it's not going to be all just me sat reading a script of the news. Yes, news roundups are going to stay, but I'm not just going to sit reading a script and doing quotes and whatnot. So the Thursday race preview is now going to be called the weekend warm-up, and that will be obviously from Russia onwards, and that's going to include press conference reaction and a number of other things as well. Friday, instead of being the practice roundup, as you saw this Friday just gone, will now be the Friday roundup, where we cover everything that happened in practice, all those results as well, and on top of that, the news stories from the day. We had loads on Friday to get through, didn't we? So that was awesome. So we're going to do that again. Saturday will still be the quali report, which we pre-recorded. Sunday will be the race watch-along. The post-race stream will no longer be the debrief. It will be the cool-down room, which is just an awesome name that Jonty he comes up with these things, and he's brilliant. He is a god at coming up with his name. So it's going to be Russian Grand Prix cool-down room next Sunday, where we're literally just going to sit, me, Jonty, and somebody else, and just talk about the race like this, not overanalyze it like we have been doing in the debrief. And then Monday's race review will be the debrief. That's what it'll be called, which will just be a complete review of the entire weekend, including the race, anything from qualifying, any of the big stories. So just kind of start the weekend off getting you ready, and then wrap it all up on the Monday. So that's all it is. But the number of streams and everything exactly the same for you. So there you go. I'll take a couple more questions then before I go. And then, does Sean read these? I read these too often, if you listen to some people, mate. I like to get... From day one on this channel, community has always been something that I wanted for it to sort of be at the core of it, which is why we've got the Discord server. Do head over there, about 1,400 people now over there. Fantastic community, and that's massively important. That's why I like to do these interactions and that with you. So your voice all right, Sean, says Fred the Shed. Yeah, get in there. It's been a long one today with all the streaming and whatnot. So I'm going to take literally 2 more questions. So if you've got anything you want to ask me now on the race today, then that's awesome. Anything on the rest of the season, if you can't think of anything from the race, that's awesome as well. If not, I'm going to end it there. Who do you think will win the championship now? Says Metal Gear Solid Snake. I said back in January, I thought it was Vettel's year. I thought he would learn from his mistakes from last season and really manage to deliver. I've been saying most of the season I think he'll do it. I think Hamilton's got it. I think he'll do it now. It's a long way back, as I keep saying. I think it will be Yeah, I think it'll be Hamilton. I'm trying to think of if he could. I mean, obviously the points, there's a lot up for grabs, but I think he's got it done and dusted. Vlogging at Charlie wants to be on a live stream. I'm not that crazy, mate. I'm a little bit mad. But yeah, I'm not that mad. One more. I've got loads now I want to pick. I'm going to go one more. I'm actually going to take those two, actually. Astro is asking what's up with Bottas. He's not been on it, has he? He wasn't on it this weekend. Well off the pace in qualifying. Really didn't have it in the race. Did well to sort of fend off Raikkonen with his driving and whatnot, but not great from Bottas this weekend. I think the fact he's been used as the number 2 driver now for the rest of the season. Look, I can only speculate, obviously, but if that were me in that position and the team were like, you've been brilliant this year, mate, very unlucky at the start of the season, you'll be on equal status again next year, but we need you to help Lewis out for this season. As a driver, I wouldn't go into a weekend and give my all because, what are you racing for, if that makes sense? It's got to be maybe subconsciously a bit of a kick in the confidence, we'll put it that way. So maybe that's affecting him a little bit. Or maybe he's just frustrated with the fact that things haven't gone his way this year. You go back to that strategy call in China. Should he have made that move in Bahrain? The puncture in Baku. What would the championship look like if everything had gone Bottas's way this season? It would look very, very different. So, probably a lot of frustration there. But the one I'm going to end on is Umar on Cars says Brazil or Japan for the season finale. That's an easy one. Either. Anything but Abu Dhabi. I love Brazil as the finale. Obviously, historically, Japan's great as a finale. I remember, obviously, as a big Schumacher fanboy, taking that title in 2000 was huge at Suzuka. The great scrap in 1999 and 1998 with Hakkinen and Irvine and Hakkinen, Schumacher, they were brilliant. So, love Japan, but Brazil is so much of a lottery with the weather and the track layout itself. We often get chaos, and they make for belting title deciders. 2007, 2008, 2010 was absolutely brilliant. 2013 was fantastic. That's why Brazil should be hosting the last race of the season, or not the last race, but be the title decider. And it's absolutely for me, should be Brazil. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people that will disagree. But I don't think... Try to think when Abu Dhabi came onto the calendar. It was 2013 time, wasn't it? So obviously, I don't think Brazil was the last race of the season, but it makes for a great title decider. It's kind of the point I'm making. So make it the last race, and that will do very, very nicely. Not impressed with the calendar for next year, I'm going to be honest. I think logistically they could have done it a lot better, but that's a debate for another day. Definitely. Thank you so much to everyone who's turned out for this one. I'm going to have to go now because my voice is just about done for the day, but it's been a pleasure having you all on. Over 3,000 of you tuned in for the race watch along, 1,200 of you we've peaked at here as well for the debrief, if you like. So absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming along. If you are new and you've enjoyed what you've watched, please do hit that subscribe button and don't forget to drop the video a like, just like all those YouTubers ask you to do, because I really do appreciate it. And it's loads of content coming up over the rest of the season and through the winter as well. So lots still to come. And I think we still quite a lot to talk about in the championship, and you never know, it could still swing. So thanks once again for joining me. Don't forget you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.